Vital knowledge, clear explanations, and simplified answers about the rules of Islam to enable English-speaking Muslims to understand Islam properly and implement it correctly. Join Sheikh Sh.Assim Alhakeem on Ask Zed, coming live to you on Zed TV at the following times. Our media partner, Huda TV.
رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad, coming to you live from Zad Studios here in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. You will find, inshallah, as usual, the numbers displayed at the bottom of your screens. In case you have a question and you want to ask about something, feel free to call. Khalid question says, I've read as per the hadith that it is not permissible to roll up pants. Can you elaborate the actual meaning of it? Does it mean to not roll pants during salah? As in office time, I do wear pants below the ankles and usually roll my pants before salah and perform accordingly. Is this permissible? First of all, the hadith is in the Sahih, where the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, said, I was ordered to prostrate on 7 bones or 7 limbs or 7 areas of my body. And he said the forehead, and pointed to his nose as well, the hands, the knees, and the feet. And I was prohibited, I was prevented, I was denied from rolling any form of dress or tucking it in, and from doing the same to my hair. The hadith is regarding salat, and we understand this because of the first part is talking about prostration on 7 areas of the body or 7 limbs. And the latter part of the hadith also talks about salat. And the hadith says that it is not permissible to gather any of your clothes or your hair when you pray, for the purpose of praying. What is the meaning of gather? The Arabic word is akuf. Kaffu al-thawb is to either fold it, to tuck it in, to gather it so that you would not have it loose. Some scholars say that this, so that you would not prevent your dress, your clothes from prostrating and bowing with you when you bow and prostrate. So, for example, you see this, what I wear in my head? Usually, this is how I wear it. If I were to pray and then I bring it and I do this, so now I am folding it. I am keeping it in not its loose and natural nature. This is prohibited, as the scholars say, because I'm doing it for the salat. Likewise, if I have some loose clothes and I tie them in either with a belt or something for the purpose of salat, this is not permissible. Going back to Khalid's question. As for folding your trousers, your pants, so that they would not go below your ankles, this is how it's supposed to be, whether you're in the office, in your home, or outside on the streets. You must not wear anything that exceeds your ankles as a man, because the Prophet told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, that whatever exceeds the ankles is tormented in hell. So if it is like 2 or 3 centimeters below your ankles or covering your ankles, then this area would be tormented in hell. And we know that the least torment of hell is a person who has a stone of fire placed in his sandals or in his shoes, where his brains boil from its heat. So you can imagine the amount of torment a person who drags his thobe, his trousers, whatever he's wearing, below his ankles. However, if you are defiant, if you are insisting on sinning, if you fold it for the purpose of the salat, this is acceptable and permissible, because this is supposed to be the norm. If you sin and roll it down throughout the whole day, but when it comes to salah, you fold it up, then this is permissible, inshallah, and I hope this answers your question. Russell says, me and my wife would like to make our Hajj. However, my savings are from my income that I earn by working in a bank in the UK. I have learned before I joined the bank that it is prohibited. I've tried looking for another job, and it is very difficult to change career paths, but I'm still trying. So, would it be permissible to make Hajj with this money? This is an issue of dispute among scholars. Some say that the hadith where the Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, "Inna Allah tayyibun wa la yaqbalu illa tayyib, wa la yaqbalu illa tayyiban," that Allah Azza wa Jal is good and He does not accept, financially that is, anything except which is good. Meaning that if you earn haram money and you go to spend it in charity, Allah will not accept that from you as a charity. If you want to give zakat out of it, it's haram money, it's not going to be accepted. So, as a consequence, these scholars said, if you perform Hajj, your Hajj would be invalid as well. Other scholars took a softer approach, and they said that Hajj is a ritual that is combined between physical and financial. Salat, for example, is all physical, while zakat, it's all financial. So Hajj is a combination. And though the person's earnings, which he had performed Hajj with, were haram, yet the physical effort that he had done, and he traveled and he prayed and did all the rituals, these are accepted and halal. And this is why the permanent committee of IFTA gave the fatwa of saying that your Hajj is valid. As a pillar of Islam, it's gone, but you're sinful still for your earning. Your reward definitely is not the same as someone who performed his Hajj with his halal earned money, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have a caller, Abu Abdurrahman from the UK.
Assalamu
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
alaikum. I have two questions.
Yes, Akhi.
My first question is, what's the ruling of using morphine as painkiller? Is that allowed? I mean, by the doctors.
Okay.
My second question is, what's your advice on students of knowledge who seek knowledge and they don't know why they are doing it? They don't know whether it's for Allah or it's for the dunya. They're not sure of their niyyah. So what's your advice?
So you're asking about the advice to a student of knowledge who doubts his intention.
Yes.
Okay. Any more question?
No, thank you. That's all.
I will answer you, inshallah. So Abu Abdurrahman from the UK had two questions. The first question about the ruling on using morphine, which is a painkiller, as a drug. So is this permissible or not? The Permanent Committee of IFTA, headed by Sheikh bin Baz, may Allah have mercy on his soul, had a fatwa stating that if there is no other alternative to it, and the doctors who are trustworthy stated that this helps, and there are no side effects, in this case, it is halal inshallah when used for an appropriate purpose and a legitimate reason. Likewise, a lot of the brothers and sisters ask about using marijuana as a form of treatment. And we know that it is legal now in some states in the US, though there is a very long battle legally because it goes against the federal law of prohibiting the selling of drugs either for entertainment or for medical reasons unless it is approved by the FDA, and a long story. So what's the ruling on using marijuana? Scholars again stated that if it is a necessity, it's not for fun, it's not for entertainment, and there is no other halal alternative because it intoxicates, it makes you high, it makes you stoned, and the one who prescribed it is a trustworthy doctor, and there are no side effects such as addiction. A person can be addicted to it. And finally, fifthly, it is used only as needed, meaning that you don't need to smoke a joint and you take like a half a bag and you say, wallahi, it's for medical reasons. No, you have to limit it to the prescribed amount and not exceed that. These 5 conditions, if applicable, in this case, it becomes halal, inshallah. Khan from Saudi Arabia.
Alaikum.
Salamtullah.
I have a question related to the question you just answered. There's a drink called kefir, and it is actually something like a yogurt. It tastes like yogurt. You make it at home, and it has got, these are kefir grains. You put milk, and then it ferments, like for 24 hours. It's a health drink. But it was told that when it ferments, it creates ethanol, carbon dioxide and ethanol. Ethanol is basically alcohol, and the level of alcohol is from 0.1% to 3%. Some people say that it is haram to drink that, but I have checked the Saleh Munjanid website, Islam Q&A. It says that it is halal. I just wanted to confirm, because is it okay to drink that?
What is it called? What is it called again?
Kefir, K-E-F-I-R.
K-A.
It's a health drink for your digestive system. It improves your digestive system.
Is it sold in Saudi Arabia?
No, you just make it at home. Yes,
Okay.
in Saudi Arabia, the grains are available
Okay.
in health store, and you make it at home. You just put the milk, and then keep it in 24 hours. It turns into sort of a yogurt kind of a thing. You drink it, and then again use the grains, and then put it for 24 hours. This is something like a cycle kind of a thing. You ferment at home.
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Asadullah from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you?
Salamtullah barakatuh.
Sheikh, I have a question in regards to the changing of a last name.
Okay.
My great-great-great-grandparents, they migrated from India to Pakistan, and I'm assuming they became Muslim, one of them. But my question is, my last name, I don't really know where it came from. And I've done a lot of research on it, and it seems like it might have some sort of Hindu connotations to it. So my question is, what's the ruling about changing a person's last name? Because I've heard that a person shouldn't change a last name which was given to him by his father.
Okay. Any more questions?
That's my first question. Yeah, just one more question. My second question is, I have a Muslim brother, a friend of mine, and he suffers from really bad anxiety and panic attacks, and he's really scared to leave his home. And he's seen a lot of doctors, and they've told him that nothing's wrong with him aside from his anxiety. And they basically recommended for him to take antidepressants. However, he refuses because of the negative side effects from it. So what would you recommend to a person like that? He's Muslim, by the way, and he's really scared to leave home or go to class or go to the masjid. Like he lives in fear, basically.
Okay.
That's basically my question.
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah, Sadullah.
Okay, Sheikh. Thank you very much for everything that you do.
Barakallah fi. Hayyakallah, alaikum salam. Abu Abdurrahman from the UK's second question, he says that as a student of knowledge, I have doubts over my intention. And this comes a lot, and it comes to almost everyone. You cannot be a real believer if you don't doubt your intention. How is that, Sheikh? I'll tell you. Ibn Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, and also Al-Hasan al-Basri said a lot of things that go something like this. Al-Hasan al-Basri says, hypocrisy. Only the believers fear it, and only the real hypocrites are feeling safe that they're not part of it. Ibn Mas'ud says, a believer sees his sins as if he is underneath a mountain just about to fall upon his head. And a hypocrite sees his sins as if it's a fly, stood on his nose and he did this and it flew away. From these quotes and so many more, we learn that it is natural and it's a sign of strong iman to fear hypocrisy, to doubt your intention. But if this doubt is crippling and calls you to abandon studying and seeking knowledge and leaving forms of worship, then this means that Satan has prevailed and that you've lost. But if this fear and doubt of your intention causes you to be more sincere and drives you further in seeking knowledge and trying to become a student of knowledge or a scholar and to call people to Islam, while 24/7 you are rectifying your intention and fighting with it so that it's pure and sincere for the sake of Allah, then you have won. Ask a question. When I doubt my intention, who is giving me this doubt? Who's giving me this advice that, hey, listen, your intention is not for the sake of Allah? It's definitely not an angel. This is shaitan whispering in my ears so that I would say, okay, I'm not going to study anymore. The intention is extremely important. If I'm associating others with Allah Azza wa Jal in such a work, Allah will not accept it. So I'm leaving. No. Fix your intention. So even if the thought comes and crosses your mind, just contemplate for a second and say, okay, I might be loving appearing on TV so that people would listen to me, and I feel strong when I command and give people answers. Yes, this is okay. But tell you what, nothing's going to benefit me except Allah's pleasure. Therefore, I'm going to take this all out of my heart, and I'll try my level best to make it sincerely for Allah Azza wa Jal, no strings attached. Nothing is for me. So instead of leaving and quitting, change your intention and all the time work hard on it. One of the Salaf says, we sought knowledge other than for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal for so many years. At the end, Allah Azza wa Jal refused it except to be for His sake. So Allah rectified our intentions, and now we're seeking knowledge and teaching it for the sake of Allah. In the beginning, we joined the classes, we joined the circles of knowledge, not for the sake of Allah, just to get some powers, just to get some, fulfill our egos, just to raise our social status. After few years of acquiring knowledge with this corrupt intention, all of a sudden Allah changes your heart and you find that now you're doing it for the sake of Allah, not for anyone else. So don't be afraid, don't get worried, Akhi Abu Abdurrahman, keep up the good work. Khan from Saudi says that there is a drink, a healthy drink called, I don't know if I wrote it right, it's called kafir. So I hope it has nothing to do with any disbelievers or kafirs. I might have heard it wrong. And she says that it's made of yogurt and milk, and they put few things, and to be fermented for 24 hours. There is an amount of alcohol in it, which is between 0.1 to 0.3%. This is negligible. Even if you take like a dozen of these drinks or these food items, you will not be wasted or intoxicated. And the rule was given to us by the Prophet ﷺ. It is not the percentage of alcohol or the presence of alcohol. It is the result of consuming a lot of quantity of it. If it intoxicates a person, then a drop of it becomes haram. Let's take brandy. Brandy, if you take 3-4 glasses, you get drunk. So even one single drop in chocolate would make it haram. But for example, in Saudi Arabia, why did I ask, do we have it in Saudi Arabia? Because it goes through the standards organization, which governs and checks all food items that come in Saudi Arabia. And to my knowledge, they are very efficient in what they do. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide them and give them power to keep up the good work. They would have blocked it. Now, there is beer that we buy on the markets, and it has 0.5, 0.6 grams percent of alcohol. But even this kind of beer, if you drink it, if you take 3 or 4 bottles, or even a half a pack, it would not affect your sanity. It would not intoxicate you, and hence this is halal. It was the Prophet who said himself, ﷺ, whatever intoxicates a lot of it, the very few or the very little of it is haram. Asis from India.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salaamullah barakatuh.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The first question is regarding, menstruating women. If on the 3rd day there is no more bleeding, can she clean herself and pray, or 7 days she have to wait even if there is no bleeding?
Okay.
And the second question is regarding, I see there are lots of gossip people do. For example, since I'm from India, we see that people talk so much like, our government is, we have a tough government and it's difficult for this and that, and no work. So can I answer like, it is, inshallah, there will be khair from Allah and there will be good. Can we say like this, just so that we can focus on what we have to do, not on what we can do for the government and all?
I don't understand the question.
My question is, actually, Muslims in our surrounding, they talk a lot regarding we have to do something, our government is kuffar and they do bad things and like that.
In India?
In India, yes. In
okay.
India. So, is it okay to say that, no, inshallah, there will be khair, everything happens because of the will of Allah, we have to do our work, and since we don't have any control, only during the time of election we have to see who is the best person and that we will choose. Otherwise, we can do nothing. So let us focus on what we can do in our houses, in our surroundings, and that's all.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. Hayyakallah akhi. Okay, I think we have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So we have Asadullah from Canada. He says, is it permissible to change my last name, as I doubt that it has a Hindu origin to it? If the name is bad, then you may change it, because the Prophet ﷺ used to change bad names into good names. However, changing your father's name is not permissible. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith that this can mount to kufr. Of course, not disbelief that takes you out of the religion, but it is a minor kufr. And one has to be called after his father and his grandfather. Now, if it is a family name and he changes it or he drops it, there's no problem in that. What counts is your name and your father's name. If your name is bad and you want to change it, this is all right. But being called after someone who is not your father, this is totally prohibited. You have to keep your father's name, your grandfather's name. If it's a family name, no problem. Drop it, but do not replace it with another family's name, as if you are part of that other family, because this is prohibited. So in short, if it's long way of a great-great-great-grandfather, you can drop the name. If you doubt it's a Hindu name, just use your name, your father's name, and your grandfather's name, and that would suffice. His second question is about a person who has anxiety problem and he is depressed. They had given him antidepressants, but he doesn't want to take them because they have side effects. First of all, this is an illness that is found a lot among the people and in lesser degree among the Muslims. But it is rising among the Muslims because Muslims are getting away from Islam and an accurate and real and true Islam. Therefore, it is advisable that you consult a Muslim psychiatrist. And why do we insist on a Muslim psychiatrist? Because a Muslim who's practicing knows the ins and outs of the business and knows what is truly good for you and what is not. And if he gives you medication for your case, then it is a must for you to take it, providing that you do not have more knowledge than the psychiatrist. But if you do, then this is a different story. Most likely you don't. So you have to refer to the people of knowledge in order to seek your cure and healing process through them. This doesn't mean that you do not follow the normal procedures in Islamic Sharia, which tells you to trust Allah, depend on Him, and have full reliance on Him. If you do this, you would not have anxiety attacks, nor depression. A person who knows that nothing would happen except that which Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed 50,000 years before Allah created the creation. Would he have fears from going out? Definitely not. If he gets these anxiety attacks saying that maybe you go out and a car would run you over, or someone would shoot you. All of this is nonsense, because I'm here in my studio talking to you. All of a sudden, maybe a big light from the ceiling would come and fall on my head and I would die. So in this case, I shouldn't be doing this. It can happen anywhere. If you have full trust and dependence and reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal, you will not have any worries. Because whenever these anxiety attacks come to you, you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This is shaitan. He's the one who is steering the wheel and driving me to such depression. Secondly, do a lot of ruqyah. Bring water, recite Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, the last two ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, the last three quls of the Quran 7 times. After each time, blow on the water and drink a lot of it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, before you go to bed. Thirdly, make a lot of dua in your sujood. Oh Allah, strengthen my iman, strengthen my tawakkul and dependence on you, and you will see miracles, inshallah, within few days. We have Dr. Muhammad from England.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, jazakumullah khair, and for the crew, for the effort as well that you do, and may Allah reward you for that and for your ikhlas, inshallah. Just a quick comment and clarification needed from you, please.
Yes.
As regards the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ما كان كثيره مسكر فقليله حرام. I'm not quite clear how could be a percentage written in a beer, like 0.1% or 1% of alcohol. And we know, for instance, a certain percentage of alcohol can make a person drunk. So how that could be halal? I'm not quite clear about that. Since it is alcohol, and we know that up to a certain percentage, that percentage could transfer a person to be drunk. So just clarification on that, please.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
The second question in the verse of the surname. If a person got actually a surname that is not written in his ID, so he's got another surname, can he add this surname? A family name that is not in his actual ID, because in certain countries, as you know, they go up to the 4th name and they drop the 5th name. So the generation after generation, the surname, the original family name will be dropped occasionally. So if there is a chance for a person to reinstate that family name, is that possible or permissible or not?
Okay. Barakallah feek, jazakallah khair. So, Asis from India says, if a woman who is on her menses gets pure on the 3rd day, does she have to wait until the 7th day, or she can perform ghusl and resume her normal life? Usually, if a woman's period is fixed for 6 days or 7 days throughout her life, usually it remains the same. But there are women who differ. So 1 month it's 5 days, 2nd month it's 8 days, 3rd month it is 3 days. Such women are requested, if she sees her purity, that she performs ghusl and starts to pray and resume her life. How does she recognize the purity? Usually the purity is recognized by what is known as al-qassatul bayda, which is a white thread-like discharge, which is not accompanied by any colors. It's pure white, no brownish, no yellowish, nothing. Once a woman sees this coming, then she knows that this is her purity. She performs ghusl. Some women do not see this white thread-like discharge, but rather they see what is known as total dryness. So even if she checks on herself and she wipes and does her due diligence, and it comes out clean, no colored discharges at all, nothing. This is a sign of purity. So if your wife sees this after, let's say, half a day of no bleeding at all, and she sees one of these two signs, she can perform ghusl and pray without any problem. His second question was about people living in a non-Muslim country. And sometimes in the gatherings, they complain about the government. The government, the president, the prime minister, the whole 9 yards, they're all non-Muslims. So he says that they complain and they start to discuss things. And he says that, inshallah, everything will be fine. We have to do whatever we can do to continue looking for the welfare of our people or our families and our careers, etc. So he's saying that, is this the right approach, or should I join them in complaining? Akhi, putting hurdles and complaining would not take you anywhere. Now, you have a situation, and in this situation, you have a number of choices, and you have to list these choices. What should we do? Should we riot? Should we overthrow the government? Should we take up arms? Should we be submissive and just go into our holes and cover ourselves with blankets until we die? Should we live our lives and do whatever we can do? All of these are different choices, and the best of them is that you are a minority and you have to live exactly as the Prophet ﷺ lived in Mecca with his companions. So for 13 years, they were forbidden from raising the sword and picking up a fight. Not even that, they were prohibited from defending themselves. And this shows you the wisdom of this da'wah, because had they not followed this procedure, the idol worshippers would have annihilated them and killed them all. There were only a handful of them. But Allah told them not to take up arms and not to fight back. So you, as a minority, you have to think positive. Instead of wasting time talking about the government, its corruption, its hatred to Islam and the Muslims, what does this add value to you as Muslims? Instead, talk about something that would make the Muslim progress, make them evolve and become more developed through education, through business, through coming together, living in the same neighborhoods, holding others back. So that by this, you would, inshallah, be able to progress. And what you're saying is true. There is no other alternative, logically nor Islamically, but to live your life, to take care of your kids, of your neighbors, of your Muslim brothers and sisters, and to try to help one another in order to, inshallah, prevail. Dr. Muhammad from England had two questions, Jazakallah khair, and it's logical. How is it possible to know whether this drink intoxicates or not? See, al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. Halal is obvious, haram is obvious. Between them are dubious matters. The one who gave us the criteria of knowing whether it intoxicates or not, whether it's halal or haram, is the Prophet himself. It is he who said, ما أسكر كثيره فقليل حرام. So by experience, if anyone would have drunk a particular drink and got wasted after 3 or 4 glasses of it, we know that this is haram and we have to stop. Nowadays, as he kindly stated, now we can tell the percentage of alcohol in a drink. And if doctors, or let us say even traffic policemen, tells us that if we find in your bloodstream this percentage of alcohol, this means that you're wasted and you're not fit to drive. So if the doctors say it's not in points, if they say like 2% or 3% is safe, it would not intoxicate you, but if it is more than it would, in this case, this is something that you can follow. Because other than that, we don't have any experience of it. This is a drink, and I'm going to drink it. Does it mean that in order for me to know whether it's haram or halal, I have to take like 7 or 8 mugs, and if I can walk a straight line, then it's halal? No. If there are other means that can tell me if it's intoxicating or not, then I have to work it out. Other than that, the presence of alcohol is not a determining factor, because sometimes we may bake a cake or bread, some juices may contain a small fraction of alcohol in it, and this does not make it haram. So I hope this answers your question. His second question was about a person who has like a hidden name. One of his surnames is hidden. So my name is Asim, my father's name is Luqman, my grandfather's name is Muhammad, my great-great-father is Yunus, etc. And the family name is Alhakeem. So people know me as Asim Alhakeem. It's dropped. If I say Asim Luqman Alhakeem, that's good. If I use the name which is usually not used, and it's dropped in the ID card, which is Yunus, so I say Asim, the son of Luqman Yunus. This is what my father used to be known as. May Allah have mercy on his soul. His name is Luqman Yunus. So if I use this name, would I be doing something wrong? Not at all. Dropping a name of your full family tree or reinstating it again, this is no problem. The problem is changing a name that is not yours. So if you are belonging to the son of Abdullah, if I change my name from Asim, the son of Luqman, into Asim, the son of Hassan, this is totally prohibited and it's a major sin. If a woman changes her name to her husband's family name or surname or whatever and puts it in her name, this is totally prohibited as well. So I hope this answers your question. A sister says, could you please show us the correct procedure of praying istikhara? The Prophet told us ﷺ, that whenever you have something you want to do, you are determined to do a particular thing, then you have to pray 2 rak'ahs after you give salam, other than the faridah. So you cannot pray fajr and make the dua. You cannot pray dhuhr, asr, maghrib or isha and make the dua. It has to be 2 rak'ahs other than the faridah. So if you pray, for example, dhuhr, and then afterwards you pray 2 sunnah of dhuhr and you make the dua, this is okay. Because these 2 sunnahs are other than the faridah. And you make the dua. The dua is well known. You can find it in Fortress of Muslim. Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmika wa astaqdiruka biqudratika wa as'aluka min fadlika al-'azim fa innaka taqdiru wa la aqdiru wa ta'lamu wa la a'lam innaka anta 'allamul ghuyub, etc. You say the dua and you name the thing that you want to do. Istikhara is not asking Allah whether this is a good choice or not. There is a car that I want to buy and there's another truck that I'm interested in. I don't know which one to buy, so I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal to, no, this doesn't work. I weigh the pros and cons in this truck. I weigh the pros and cons in this car. I go for this car. I'm determined to buy this car. I pray these 2 rak'ahs and I make the dua of istikhara, asking Allah to facilitate it. If there's good in it for me, that it should happen. If not, Allah would deflect it away from me and I would not go through it. Zaida Islam says, is it sunnah to give reminders about death after funeral prayer? So, is it sunnah? No, it is not sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ had never taken it as a habit after a funeral prayer or after burying a corpse in the cemetery that he would sit and give a reminder to the Muslims. Only once, probably, or twice, that he stated something that does not mount to a speech or a lecture or a reminder. So it has a lot of shortcomings. When you are burying someone and all of a sudden you stand up in the crowd while they're burying or after they've had finished and you say that death is inevitable and look at these who died, they've lost everything, they were so sinful, they were so lost in this dunya, and his children, his siblings and his loved ones are listening to you. Are you talking about the one who we had, our loved one whom we had just buried? This is insultive. This is insulting. You're insulting us. You're harming us. But what you're saying, this is inappropriate at all. But there is an incident in the hadith of Al-Bara ibn Azib, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, that the Prophet ﷺ, while they were digging the grave, getting it ready, he sat with them and he told them about the fate of people when they're dying, on their dying beds. How the good people get the good angels and how the bad people get the angels of torment and punishment, and what's happening to their souls, going up, going down, being thrown, etc. This has nothing to do with the deceased. And this was once that the Prophet had done. So is it sunnah? The answer is no, it is not a sunnah. Sheikh Bilal says, what is the ruling on such prayers where a man prayed in trousers with very small, tiny holes in it? A Muslim must cover his awrah, especially when he is offering prayer. Negligible holes do not affect your prayer. If you have a big hole on your trousers, exposing your thigh, for example, this renders your salat invalid because you must cover your awrah. Doing the opposite intentionally, because this is intentional. You could have covered it with anything, with a handkerchief or with another thobe, or change your trousers. But you refused, this makes your prayer invalid. A small, tiny dot that may or may not expose your thigh or your awrah, this is negligible as long as it's very, very small and tiny. Ghazi says, is there any hadith saying diseases are cured with using water from well of Badr? He says, I think well of Bir. Kindly explain about it in your answer. These are all baseless allegations. There is no healing powers or any special powers for any water in a well in Medina, whether it is the well where the ring of the Prophet ﷺ had fell in by Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, he lost it there, or by the beer of Bayruha, or this or that. None of it has any special powers. Only Zamzam water is the water that has curing, and it has powers to it, as stated by the Prophet ﷺ. A brother says, my family and relatives are from Pakistan and they're living in the UK, and they follow a particular deviant sect that originates from Pakistan and India. They believe that the Prophet ﷺ was created from light of Allah and that he ﷺ was the first creation. How do I give them da'wah? Finding it difficult. I get mocked and called names. For example, Wahhabi. This is the norm. And whenever you get this, inshallah, you are on the right track. How is so? Who are you following? The Quran. And what else? The Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. How? Through the understanding of the favored 3 generations of the companions and tabi'in, tabi'it, tabi'in. So, do you follow anything else? He says, no, this is what I understand. And if in this case, you are exactly following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, which means that you will face the same fate. The Prophet ﷺ was accused of being a sorcerer, a madman, a magician, a poet, a liar, a fortune teller. All of this, the Prophet was accused of, ﷺ. Yet, he never changed his way because he was following the Quran and the instructions of Allah Azza wa Jal, which you are doing at the moment. So, don't worry. All those who walk the right path, the straight path, will be faced with what you are being faced with. Accusations. Whether you're a Wahhabi, you are a terrorist, you're a fundamentalist, don't care about those. They themselves follow teachings that are not based neither in the Quran nor in the Sunnah. And they don't want to learn the Quran and the Sunnah because they want to follow their forefathers. They have a cult to follow. And those who believe that the Prophet ﷺ is alive, Hazir Nazir, those who believe that the Prophet was created from Allah's light and all the creations were created from His light, these are disbelievers. Those who go to the graves and seek help and benefit from the deceased, the buried, dead people, and they seek refuge in them from whatever harms them, and they think that the Prophet ﷺ looks at the universe as if he's looking at the palm of his hand and has control over everything. These are not Muslims to begin with. So, akhi, keep up the good work, abide by the Quran and the Sunnah. Don't care about what they say about you. Make dua that Allah guides them to proper Islam. Other than that, don't feel sad, and inshallah, you are on the right track. Mujassam Khan says, what is the dua while putting soil over the grave while funeral? There is no authentic hadith. منها خلقناكم وفيها نعيدكم ومنها نخرجكم تارة أخرى. When you put 3 throws of soil, this is not part of the Sunnah. The hadith is not authentic, and there is no such dua to be said while burying and putting the soil over the grave, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have until we meet next time, same time next week. Inshallah, I'll leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu